worksheet number 5, and it's just talking about the issues in the body that has to do with acid-base balance is what we're on. We went through electrolytes as well as water-based balances. So basically in your body, your pH, the normal range, is 7.35 to 7.45. That's good. You want to stay in that range. For bicarbonate ion, which is in your blood and your kidneys regulates it, it's 22 to 28. And then for your pressure, so PCO2, P stands for pressure, so that's 35 to 45. So this is just some chart to help you understand the concept. So a respiratory acidosis means that there's too much acid in the body. So your pH, if something is acidic, you're going to have a low pH and it will be less than 3.5. Your bicarbonate ion, okay, because we're talking about respiratory acidosis. Bicarbonate ion is just fine. Nothing is affecting it. It's within normal range. However, since carbon dioxide is an acid, respiratory acidosis has to do that with more than 45 carbon dioxide. Make sense? Okay. But respiratory alkalosis, okay, if something is alkaline, you're going to have a high pH. So you're a base, right? So high pH. Since it's respiratory, it doesn't affect HCO3, bicarbonate ion. Bicarbonate ion only has to do really with your kidneys. But if you have respiratory alkalosis, you're going to be basic. You're going to have a high pH, but you're going to have less carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is an acid. And if you have too little acid, you're going to be too much base. So there's some rationale there that you can probably look through, and it'll probably help make a little more sense. And the reason why HCO3 in that situation up here was normal, because it didn't have any, because we weren't even talking about the kidneys or metabolic reactions. We were just talking about respiratory issues. So the next one, I think your worksheet might be a little bit different from mine. But the imbalance is now metabolic acidosis. So whenever you see metabolic, you're going to think about your kidneys. Whenever you think acid, you're going to think about your pH. So if you're acidic, you're going to have a low pH, and you're going to have less than 3.5. So acidic, low pH. Like I said, over here, if you see PCO2, that's with your respiratory. It's going to be in normal range. It's going to be just fine, because it is not affected, because we're just talking about metabolism. We're just talking about your kidneys. So acidosis, low pH, and you're going to have too little bicarbonate ion. Because you have too little bicarbonate ion, you're going to be losing that base. So whenever you think, and the thing is too, with metabolic, it's basically the same. So your pH is low, metabolic, low pH, low bicarbonate. And then the carbon dioxide is just the same. Metabolic acidosis or alkalosis means that you're very base. You're going to have, and if you're a base, you have a high pH. If you have a high pH, you're going to have a lot of bicarbonate ion in the body. So it's pretty much the same with the metabolic reactions. It's the same. Low, low, high, high, right? But if you go up to respiratory, it's opposite. And that's because your pH is low, and a low pH correlates with something acidic. But if you have too much of something that's acidic, it's going to cause it to go even lower. So if you see less, more, and then more and less, it's a little bit different. It's opposite in respiratory. But usually when you get a question on this, it'll give you the pH. So the first thing to look at is determine if it's acidosis or alkalosis. So you're going to get a question, and it's going to give you a situation. It's going to give you the pH. And so just think, okay, what is the pH? Is it acid or base? if it's a lower than 7.35, if it's lower than that, then it is acidic. So write acid on your paper so you know it's acidic. When you continue to read it, determine if it has to do with breathing or if it has to do with your kidneys, like metabolism. Just determine that. If you're reading it and it says, I don't know, it indicates that it has a high pH. If it has a high pH, it's going to be a base. And if it's, so just write base on your paper. That's the first thing you do. Look at the pH and then determine if it's a respiratory issue or a metabolic issue. If it's a respiratory issue, you're going to be affected by your carbon dioxide. If it's metabolic, it's going to be bicarbonate ion. So you can read through this and it will make a little more sense. It just takes time. So too much carbon dioxide indicates respiratory acidosis, because you have too much, it's too acidic. That's because if you have too much, that's just me, acidic. Too little bicarbonate ion will indicate metabolic acidosis. Remember, bicarbonate ion is a base. So if you have too little base, you don't have enough of it, your body will be acidic because you're losing all the base when you pee it out. So a depleted amount of bicarbonate ion, this indicates there's something wrong with someone's kidneys. And this would be a metabolic acidosis because you're losing that base in your body. I'm going to scroll up. Yeah, okay. So too little carbon dioxide in the body is known as respiratory alkalosis, right? Because carbon dioxide is an acid. It also has to do with your respirations with your lungs. So if you lose that acid, if you don't have any more positivity, your body will become negative, and that's causing the alkalosis. With metabolic alkalosis, though, it has to do with bicarbonate ion. Bicarbonate ion is a base. So if you have too much bicarbonate ion, if you have too much base, you're going to become alkaline. And this will lead to alkalosis. So the next question, compensation is the body, so that was all the issues that we have in the body. But the body is a very wonderful thing because it can adapt to change. And compensation is a way that the body can adapt to that change in the pH. So compensation is the body's attempt to return the pH to the normal range. That's pretty straightforward. So when you think about, so now we're going to talk about metabolic alkalosis, okay? Metabolic alkalosis, so let's break it down. Alkalosis means that your base. So you're going to be base, too much of it. And then metabolic has to do with your kidneys, right? So if we are too basic and alkaline, we need to stock up on acid to balance this out. Because if we're too much base, then we don't have any acid. So we need to stock up on this to make us neutral. So the buffer system, in order to compensate for this, right? Its compensation is that your buffers will release hydrogen ions in the body fluid, and this will add acidity in your blood and lower the pH. That's just what your buffers do. So your buffer will release hydrogen ions because you have too much base, you need something to help neutralize it out. Your respiratory will, so if you have too much base in your body, you want to hold on to your carbon dioxide. And if you're trying to hold on to your carbon dioxide, your rate and depth of breathing will decrease, right? Because we want to decrease the amount of carbon dioxide that we lose. So you're gonna breathe slower with respiratory alkalosis, and it's gonna be slow, shallow breaths. So if you have a patient that shows slow, shallow breaths, it's good to evaluate them for metabolic alkalosis. Metabolic compensation. So if you're holding on to too much base, if you have too much So if you have too much bicarbonate ion in your body, your kidneys will decrease peeing out your hydrogen. It will retain them, it'll uptake them, because your kidneys will want to hold on to your hydrogen ion in order to neutralize this increased amount of base. So that is those are the three methods of how metabolic alkalosis is compensated for. You just try to do the opposite of what it is. The next one is respiratory. Yeah, so I just kind of picked two different ones. Respiratory acidosis. So you're going to have too much acid, and if it's respiratory, it has to do with breathing. There's an issue with your lungs. You have too much CO2, which means too much hydrochloric acid, which makes it you're just acidic all over. How does the body compensate for respiratory acidosis? If we are too acidic, you need to get rid of it. So in alkalosis, you either need to balance it out by holding on to your acid. So you're going to hold on to things in alkalosis. But in acidosis, you need to get rid of it. So buffer system will decrease the concentration of bicarbonate ions, will decrease hydrogen ions, and this is through having buffers bind to them, and a buffer would be this is a buffer. I can't think about it right now. Hydroxide. That's a buffer. Or it will cause you to remove the hydrogen from the body. Respiratory. So if you have too much acid in your body, how you compensate for this? In reality, if you have respiratory acidosis, okay, it's because you're not breathing out that carbon dioxide. If you're not breathing out that carbon dioxide, it's because your lungs are damaged. So in reality, your lungs are damaged. You're not going to be able to breathe out, which means that there's probably a pulmonary disease. Whenever you see the word pulmonary, that means lungs. And if gas exchange is not working, then respiratory is not going to do anything. So you don't need to memorize anything for that. Because, respiratory acidosis, your lungs are damaged, you're not able to compensate for your respiratory through breathing. However, you can compensate through metabolic reactions. The kidneys will want to get rid of as much acid as they can. The lungs cannot regulate it, so the kidneys will be working twice as hard. And what the kidneys do is that they decrease the amount of hydrogen in the blood, and they just cause you to pee it out. And I believe that is all. Any questions? No? Okay.